Hey everyone, and welcome to the Soul Star Cafe. My name is Ruth Perkinson, and I'm glad everyone is here with me today because I have a friend here with me by the name of Carole Louie. Welcome, Carole.
Thank you for having me. So nice to join you in your group.
Yes, thank you so much. And just for people who don't know Carole Louie, she is an amazing teacher, an author, a past regression therapist. She is what we might call a soul medium. And so, what we're going to do here today on this conversation is talk about things that might be helpful for us on our soul journey. And Carol is the perfect person to talk about this with. She has been on an amazing journey in this lifetime and studying all kinds of things about reincarnation, the therapy around that, and has written 5 books. And so, Carol, I just am so excited that you're here.
Thank you so much. I'm
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here too. I can't wait to see what comes up.
Yes. And one of the things that came up right before we hit the record button is I think something that we really need to take a really hard look at, which is a question that has been coming up in some of your groups about why do bad things happen to good people? And I think it's a great maybe starting point for our discussion here today. Why do bad things happen to good people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was one of my questions early on also. In fact, in the story that I wrote about Anne Marie, the life just before this one, I start off like with a sentence similar to, I'm a good person. Why did all of these bad things happen to me? I had to address it for myself. And on from my mother's side, I was raised Christian. My father was Buddhist, but we didn't learn the Buddhist teachings, so we were raised Christian. And I remember that the apron and the altar at the church said, "God is love." So, by the time I got to thinking about all of these things, I said, if God is love, then why did all of these bad things happen to me? And this is what I hear a lot of people who are opening up to questioning are asking also. And my Christian upbringing didn't answer those questions, didn't answer many questions for me, which is why I kept seeking. And then I started remembering.
Right.
But the beautiful part was not just remembering past lives, but remembering the process. So I call it, the cosmology. That was the name of the last book that I worked on, the cosmology of reincarnation. What I saw was a process that was so intricate, so eloquent, that accounted for all of these bad things as well as the good things, and so much more. We're here to experience way more than just the duality. But it's until we can align ourselves, remember that we come from source. That's the ultimate goal of remembering, to remember that we not only come from source, source is within us.
Right.
And as physical manifestations of source, our goal is really to play that out in this earthly incarnation. And so when we do, we rise above all of that duality, all of the, why the bad and the good. So this is how I can stay centered when all of the chaos is going on in this world right now. That I know that everything is playing out for a purpose, whether I can fully understand it or not. And anything that I get triggered by is a message to me that here's another fragment for me to work on to help me realize source at that deeper level.
That's a critical point right there is what is triggering me, and then what can I do to look inward to figure out how to heal that, right?
Yes, yes. So that's what I tell people, that so many people are so angry about the geopolitical scene and all of these things that are going on. And I say to them, what specifically are you angry about? Like I still get triggered on a particular issue. That it's not important to go into that today, but when I see myself getting triggered by that, then I know, okay, wait a minute, take a breath
Right.
like we did just before we got started, get centered, and then ask my higher self, what can I do to help myself come to healing or resolution about that particular issue? You know, it's easier to point the finger
Right.
outward at a topic and not see the three fingers pointing back at ourselves.
I just had that thought yesterday talking to my family, one of my family members, about that finger being pointed out and you got three pointed back at you. I
Yeah.
love that teaching.
Yeah. So, you know, like Jesus said, meditate on this, go within. And so that's what I do whenever I get triggered.
Yeah.
And some triggers, the heavier triggers, takes me a little bit longer to get centered, but that doesn't matter. I don't even look at the subject until I know that I'm centered.
Right.
And then when I do, I can look at that subject very differently than when I try to look at it from my ego.
Right. Yeah, because it seems to be that you switch from the ego mind, the fear mind, the judgment mind into a spiritual mindset, which
Hmm.
puts you in the right frame of mind to do the actual healing.
Yeah, yeah. See, a lot of people want to blame God, the universe, source, whatever, for the things that go bad in the world.
Mhm.
And what they don't realize is that the system was created by these higher beings, but with a certain amount of freedom for humans to have free will to make their choices. It's we humans and all of our actions that are not aligned with source that have created the scenario that we're working on. And it's up to us to heal it.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And what helps me is the word miscreation, because that is sort of the mistakes that we make in
Yeah, yeah,
miscreation, and then we're rejoining with creation to heal all those miscreative opportunities or things that
yeah.
have happened. So maybe what we could do right here is help somebody walk through either cosmology or reincarnation or an example that you might want to bring up that will give people a clear indication of some of the work that you're doing that will
Mm.
help them with a trigger or something that is
Yeah, I can share something. Of course, I won't say the name and some certain of the particulars, but I've had three, four calls for mediumship readings just recently. The
okay.
most recent one was someone who lost her pet.
Okay.
And grieving, still in deep emotional grief about the loss of her pet and feeling so alone. And so, um, one of the things I've learned is for whatever reason, and this is not just the Western culture, but Eastern cultures, I've seen it also. Um, we're conditioned to suppress our feelings and our thoughts and, just tamp it down, right?
Right. Right.
Move on.
Right.
And And what I've learned is that in my work and my training is that rather than suppress those feelings, just sit with them, honor them for a moment. And rather than suppressing, which seems to make them even worse,
I
magnifies
agree.
them even more, the moment we say, you know what, I see, I honor you. And so we did that for a moment. And so I love the phrase, the setup phrase in EFT, emotional freedom technique. Even though, and so you state that that thing that is coming up for you, bubbling up for you, even though, and then now you take it a transition, and even though I'm feeling all of this grief and I miss my pet or my loved one, I know that we're still connected because love never dies. And so what happened in the next step, so as I was saying to you, as a soul medium, what I do is I connect with my client's soul, and their soul communicates to me in a way that the person themselves is not able to hear. So
Right,
I become like a translator.
right.
And so what her soul showed me was, oh, wait a minute, let's take her into those altered states. So she had been talking about how in a dream, both before her pet died and after her pet died, there the pet was, and kind of giving her clues that it was coming close to the time. And then the dream after the pet died, her mother, who had passed also, showed up, and both were healthy. And I said, then let's go back into that dream. And so we did. And once she re-anchored the experience of the pet being healthy, her mother being younger and vibrant and healthy. And then I said, now see yourself with them in the spirit world.
Put a pause there because that's a beautiful teaching. And one of the things I just want a slight bit of clarity around for people watching this video is when you go into that soul mediumship and you're looking into the field, are you getting an image? Are you looking through your third eye? How are you getting that information as you tap into that person's field?
Nowadays, it's predominantly claircognizant, but I'm an interior designer, so I am very visual. And so the best way I explain, even though it's like a instantaneous download in the way I experience claircognizance, and yet, in order to describe it, it looks like the way I describe something when I'm really high in that energy of clairvoyance. So it's usually I see, every now and then there will be an I feel, or I sense. Sometimes when I know something, and it's just a combination of see, feel, just knowing, then I'll use the word I sense. And so let me remember back to when that happened. Um, so actually, I was in the field with her. I went into the dream with her.
Okay.
And what I saw was she was describing a wooded area. And I said, okay, let's go into that wooded area. So I could see her looking through her eyes, but not her form. And then I'm behind her, following her, and I could see ahead of her that in that forest area, there was a clearing. So I guided her to go into that clearing area, and sure enough, that's where the her pet and her mother and other pets also were there. And then that's when I knew, oh, wait a minute, she's not aware that she's actually in the dream.
Right.
And so the reason why her soul wanted her to know that was it helped her anchor herself in the non-physical world as well as the physical world, because we're more than these physical 3D beings.
Right, right. It really feels like you were a bridge,
Yes.
like you were really guiding her as a spirit guide through that vision and
Yeah.
that multisensory experience that you have, which
Yes.
is really
It
beautiful.
it's a rich experience, and what I have found over and over in my life, I have to do things before I can share them with I have to live it, in other words. I'm not one of those, people who say, "Oh, do this," but I
Right,
haven't done it.
right.
I have to go through the experiences myself to
I
get
hear you.
comfortable enough, and then that's when I can teach it.
Yeah,
And so uh just being in that rich experience of the
right,
spirit world and bringing that information now into the physical world,
right.
and knowing that, oh, wow, I can really it's useful information.
It really is. And
Yeah,
it's so to the woman you are helping, it's just so healing, it's encouraging, it's reminding us that there really is no death, that we
yeah,
continue on. that we go into a different, what we might call life form or an energy signature. And I think that's very important. And it's something that I'll just tap in for a second. I lost my dog back in February,
Right.
and I think you had met her.
Yeah.
And I knew she was going. It was very interesting. And the night before she died, I called in her mother and I said, "Can you come help this offspring? Because I think she's at a transition point." And so in a lucid dream, I saw a black dog and it wasn't my dog. And I said, okay, that's her. And I knew that the next day we were going to have to let her go. And how that was so divinely orchestrated. And then that week in a lucid dream, I saw her appear.
Oh,
And I was so grateful to have that because, of course, I was going through all the emotions. I was upset. I was crying. I was, felt like I was losing something, but then the images that came through and the sensations that came through, and then I actually saw her. And I just wanted to bring that up because I think it really is help because I deal with people too that have lost pets or they're missing, things like that. And so we're really trying to let people know that there is another world beyond this world.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And actually, my first introduction to being, I'm not an official death doula, but I have had experiences with holding the energy for someone who's passing. But it was my partner's dog who was getting ready to pass, and she showed me how the spirit leaves the body. She was euthanized. So she showed me how her spirit left the body before she was actually euthanized. And I saw this, she was very ill and so not able to move around. But as soon as that spirit left the body, it was like she leaped and she was leaping for a star. I did a painting about this afterwards. So in the painting, there's this brown mass at the bottom of the painting, but this vibrant, she was a black lab, this vibrant black lab leaping for this star. And what a, she was teaching me
Yes.
that, oh my goodness, we do not die. And that's why I even hate to use the word death and dying. And I'm more inclined to use crossing over or, transition. And and so I don't have the same kind of emotions that a lot of people have
Right.
because of being able to see it, transition so quickly.
Let me ask you right there. That's really, I think, helpful, what you're talking about. When you were holding space there and did you actually see the energy move up and out? Were you seeing that in your third eye, your physical eyes?
It was more like an apparition.
An apparition.
Yeah, so as a medium, there's different ways to see beings on the other side. I usually call it the non-physical world. So if I use that terminology, you know what I'm talking about. Um, in this case, it was an apparition. So for me, an apparition is like a hologram.
Okay.
I see the form pretty clearly, but it's translucent.
Oh, that's so helpful to hear, Carol. That translucent, like energy, that vibration, that frequency, and it feels very youthful. Is
Yes,
that,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
and her, one of the things I've learned is that beings on the non-physical in the non-physical world create their experience by mental constructs. So in this dog's mind, she was youthful, and that's what she immediately created. I mean, seconds
Yeah.
after the spirit's out of the body, it's like
Right.
it's all youthful again.
Yeah.
And I've seen this with people too, that they create what they hold on to in this physical world. My father was my first guide. And he created, my father was Chinese, and he created initially um, a mahjong room. He played mahjong every day, every afternoon when he was alive, in his elder years, except when he was ill. So the first thing that he wanted to do was go back to the mahjong room and play mahjong.
And
That was
that's like a board game?
yeah, with tiles.
Okay.
And watch Crazy Rich Asians and you'll see them playing mahjong.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's so cool because they do a thing where they wash the tiles, which is moving the tiles around and it makes a certain sound. So it's like in that experience, I could hear the sound, I could smell, they always smoked, and so there was this cloud of smoke around them. And I could, I experienced it is on a sensorial level,
Yeah,
which that to me was very unusual, because so often people think once your spirit leaves your body, oh, you immediately go to heaven. There's so many levels in the
yes,
spirit world, and so they were still very much attached to the
yeah.
lower levels, which replicated his physical experience.
Well, let's touch on that a little bit about the levels. I think that might really interest people who watch this. That we do, you're the reincarnation expert here. So walk us through a little bit of what that looks like from your experience, like the different levels.
Well, I think something I would really like to point out is that no matter what you say you believe that comes out of your mouth, your source knows what you really believe. It's like that thing about intention. You can say, I want to do something, but if your intention is not fully on board with it, it's not going to happen. The same thing is true. So, like my father was Buddhist, but he wasn't a very good practicing Buddhist.
Gotcha.
And at his funeral, he tried to cover all the bases. So he had a Christian minister come in too, because, he knew that my brother and sister and I were raised Christian. And yet, so one of the first things when I actually could talk to him was he said, "Oh man, all of that preparation that I did for the funeral services, covered all the Buddhist bases, all the Christian bases. Nope, that didn't have one iota of effect on his actual experience because deep down he didn't believe any of it."
Oh, he was like trying to make everybody happy, it feels like, just trying to, yeah, to your point, covering all the bases, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it's like going through the motions. How many times, I don't care what the religious belief is, that we go through the motions, but we're not really in engaged
Mhm.
in the act of whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
But and what I discovered in my experience with my father was um, how to make a long story short. In when I finally could communicate with him the very first time, and he told me to go talk to Stella, who was the person at the mortuary, who could help me understand what he was trying to show me. Um, and she explained to me that certain things needed to be done,
Right.
based on, again, their tradition. Certain Buddhist rituals needed
Mhm.
to be done. She said we should bring the monks in to do these rituals. And my father's like whispering in my ear, saying, "No, no, you do them. Save money, you do them,"
Yeah.
is what he said. And so I said, "Well, can you just explain to me what needs to be done and I'll do my best to do it." Well, so here's my point. It wasn't that I did the rituals exactly perfectly, but I did them from my heart.
There it is. Yes.
I'm not
There it is.
Buddhist. I
Mhm.
don't know Buddhism.
Yeah.
And yet I did it from my heart to help my father in his transition.
That's a beautiful teaching, Carol, right there for people listening to this is, and one of the messages I've been trying to bring through with people is to be in alignment from your heart. Be
Yes.
in alignment, be in integrity, be in good co-creative intention, really feeling that love, which comes from source,
Yeah.
and to really operate from that mode. Oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
a beautiful teaching.
Yeah, and that was a wonderful teaching for me because then I learned not to judge myself,
Right,
and I could feel the energy of my intentions. So again, that just showed me make your own rituals up. Don't worry about, following any particular
right,
creed or what have you. And this is what I felt like happened in the beginning. I was telling you earlier that, the beliefs in reincarnation are older than any religion. And so what I saw happened was that people had these experiences. They were, certain people in a tribe had the experiences. They tried to relay it to their tribes people. And so then the tribes people tried to replicate
right.
the experience, hoping that they would have the experience or the feeling or whatever about it. And this is what becomes our rituals.
Yeah,
And yet, again, like I said, how many times are rituals empty that
right.
they don't get us there but when we have experience, so that's what all my work is about, doing meditations, classes, one-on-one sessions to help people have their own experience.
Exactly. And that's one thing, your beautiful work is the meditation, the classes, the one-on-one experiences. And I'll just mention here, we're going to be coming to a close here in a little bit, but I had a beautiful session with you last year. And one of the things that I remember from that is, first of all, how comfortable you made me feel in the session. And then as we were going through all the things, it just felt so extraordinary to be, you really just showed me how to do it, and really as that spirit guide. And that's what a medium does. I mean, you really are you were bridging me through the world that I had been in before, and really were calibrating and seeing and all the things. And I just wanted to mention that here, that was an extraordinary experience for me.
Yeah.
And it really helped me. I was really sure. That's the big thing that came out of my experience with you is I had an inclination. I really thought that I was this being in the last 120 years. And you really helped me be sure about that, and then you were sure as we closed out that session. I remember you're like, yeah, that was you. And I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like I said, as a medium, I often see things that I make notes of on the left side of my paper, while I'm on the right side, I'm making notes about what the person, the experience they're having, and they overlap all the time. It's just so wonderful. So then on the outtake, we can compare those notes and usually the person will say, "Oh yeah, so much more was happening than I could even talk about."
Right,
Yeah, and to come to what you were talking about, don't I feel like having done the hard work to heal myself from the trauma I experienced in this lifetime, which was also connected with many past lives.
right,
Having done that work was like my preparation for me to do what I'm meant to really do in this lifetime, which is holding the energy. You can't hold the energy for someone if you haven't experienced it yourself.
I agree.
And until then, we attract people to us who are teaching us that.
Right.
But when we can actually hold it, then we don't even need words. We just sit in presence with one another, and
Yeah.
it's felt.
It truly is. And right here, I'm feeling that even as you're talking. And that's the cadence of your voice and the rhythm of your voice as you're speaking is that it just feels, that it feels almost hypnotizing is what I guess the word is coming to my mind, right?
Yeah. Well, I've been teaching meditation for a long time, 30 some years, and so that was a natural segue for me to go into hypnotherapy.
Yeah. Well, Carol, I really appreciate you, and I appreciate this extraordinary body of work that we've only touched the surface in this 20, 25 minutes we've been talking or so, we've really only touched the surface with your work and the body of it. And so what I'd like to do is invite you to come back and
Wonderful.
maybe make this a regular thing if you want to make it a regular thing, if you feel inspired, so that people can really get to know you and we can broadcast your work out there more and more. I know you've written 5 books. I've read one, and then if you wanted to just mention those books right now and maybe how people can connect with you.
Okay, the first one is actually it's called A Paranormal Cozy Fiction. It's um Emily, the secret, not so secret life of Emily Elizabeth. Um, Funny story about how we'll save that for next time.
Yeah.
The book that I was really working on was Conversations with a Hungry Ghost. The subtitle is Memoir of a Reluctant Medium. So that's the one that you read. The story about my conversations with a hungry ghost means something in the Chinese culture. And my father was a hungry ghost, meaning an unsettled spirit, when he crossed over. And so that's a story about my conversations with him and my finally accepting the fact that, yes, I am a medium, getting over my fears about that. Then I wrote a book about a branch of my family that I discovered. Not only was it a branch of my family that I was very much interested in, but I was also in a previous life, generation number 5 in that branch. So that was legacy of the Lay family architects lives on. Then I got to the work that which I thought was my magnum opus, the Unstuck in Time Memoir of a Time Traveler. So that's about 8 of my past lives and how I was able to connect the dots. And then the universe says, no, you're not done yet. Because my mind is the type that wants to know how things work. I had been processing through writing, through living, all of those things. And then 2 years ago, I wrote The Cosmology of Reincarnation and Rebirth, a brief history about reincarnation and the evolution of past life regression therapy. And now I'm working on a new book, Born to Remember the Past, Present, and Future.
Wow. That's remarkable. What a body of work there. So everybody watching this video, all of that will be in the description. So, and they can reach out to you through your website, right?
Yes, and it's carolelouie.com, .net, and Carol has the E, Carole. Louie is Louie.
That's beautiful. And also locally here in Richmond, Virginia, you
Yeah.
will be at the Ions group in May the
May
17th.
16, yeah. And that's when I will be talking about the next book, Born to Remember the Past, Present, and Future. I'm really excited about that because I'll be sharing some things I have not shared with anyone yet, except my small groups, and including some experiences with extraterrestrials.
Well, that I'm so grateful you mentioned that because I'm a fan of Stephen Greer, so I love his work, and I don't know if you know him, but
Yep, I do.
yes. And so, well, thank you so much, Carole Louie. What an extraordinary soul medium that you are. I really highly recommend anyone watching this video to reach out to you, to look at your work, to connect. She's extraordinary, and I'm so grateful you've been here with us today. Any
And
final thoughts before
thank
we go?
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Ruth, for everything you're doing. I know the work that it takes to create a podcast, and and I love your inquisitive mind, your questions, the back and forth that we get to have. And so thank you for being you.
Oh wow, so sure. I really find it. I love doing this work, and I love bringing forth information that think will be helpful for people on their soul journey. Because I'll just be honest, this is a very interesting world we're in, and we're all just really helping each other. kind
Yeah.
of holding each other's hands in this, helping each other wake up, really, I
Yeah.
think is the ultimate thing. So, all right, Carol, I'm going to try and find this stop button. So hold some space for me, and I'll try not to come out of my body here, but I'm going to try and find that stop button. God bless you and thank you.